let's get right down to it. Take a listen to Colorado high school teacher Jay Benish.
He started off his speech talking about how America should be the country that dominates the world. That we have been blessed essentially by God to have the most civilized, most advanced, best system, and that it's our duty as Americans to use the military to go out into the world and to make the world like us. Sounds a lot like the things that Adolf Hitler used to say.
So one of Jay Benish's students snuck in a tape recorder, and that's how we got that little ditty. Today, Benish was suspended for peddling his politics in the classroom, and I applaud the suspension, but they didn't go far enough. He should have been fired. This isn't about free speech. Jay Benish has every right as an American to express himself, short, of course, of yelling fire in a crowded theater. But his role here wasn't as an average American citizen, it was as an educator. And as a teacher myself, the one thing that I'm wary of is using my power to influence students to think the way I want them to think. My job as an educator is to provoke and stimulate thought. Donna Lieberman is one of the country's leading advocates for free speech, and she thinks Jay Benish has every right to share his political views with his students. Welcome to Reality Check. Now, let's get right down to it. A teacher doesn't have a right to say anything he or she wants in a classroom.
Well, of course not. But what a teacher does have the right to do is teach, and to not be subject to a political correctness line imposed by higher-ups or the public. And what a teacher can't do when he or she is teaching is impose an orthodoxy of political correctness.
Okay, but Jay Benish was teaching geography. What in the hell does George W. Bush and Hitler have to do with geography?
I think we all know that geography is about world politics as well. I mean,
can't even, come on now. You can't even, you're having a hard time with that one.
But if he were saying the opposite of what he said, if his political views were different, nobody would be criticizing him.
And you know what? If he had given both sides,
I think is the point.
If he had given both sides, as teachers are supposed to do, and let the kids come to their own conclusion, I would be on your side. But this is not what happened. He indoctrinated these kids.
If the school district concludes that this is indoctrination, it's one thing. I haven't heard his whole lecture, and I don't know whether you have.
Well, we do know that he talked about Israel in that speech of his. What if he had said that the Holocaust never existed, that's a complete fabrication? Would you be okay? Would you defend him this morning?
That's not what we're dealing with.
Would you defend his right to teach in the classroom?
Teachers don't have the right to fabricate history, of course not. But they do have the right to express ideas and to express their own ideas, to express other people's ideas. If they are teaching, if they are preaching, they don't have the right to do it.
Then we agree on that. Okay, let's listen to what he had to say about Israel.
They assassinated the British Prime Minister in Palestine. They blew up buildings. They stole military equipment. Assassinated hundreds of people. Car bombings, you name it. That's how the modern state of Israel was made, was through violence and terrorism.
That's how the modern state of Israel was made, through violence and terrorism. Donna Lieberman, would you want this man teaching your children?
I think that I want teachers teaching my children who encourage them to think critically.
Would you want Jay Benish?
I would not want to be in a school district that told teachers that they couldn't say things that were politically unpopular.
But would you want Jay Benish to teach your kids?
It's not the ideas that are expressed that decides whether or not I'd want this guy teaching my kids. It's how he teaches. Whether he creates a schoolroom environment where children are free to think and come up with their own ideas and back them up with facts.
That's exactly what Jay Benish didn't do. And if more teachers focused on reading, writing, and arithmetic, the basics, maybe more of our kids would be graduating from high school. Donna, thank you for joining us today, and we'll be back with more Reality Check.
I'm not really so much of the homecoming queen type. I'm not the wrist, elbow. I've never been able, I've always worn just jeans.
All right, let me try to clarify this for y'all. That was Jennifer Jones, the new homecoming king. Homecoming king of Maryland's Hood College. Now, call me old-fashioned, but I like my kings to be men. That leads off our hot list for tonight. Now, they may not be the most important stories, but they're the most interesting. Next up, Barry Bonds and steroid use. Who cares? Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, are we taking away their records and championships? No. And even on steroids, you have to do the work. If you want to risk acne, violent mood swings, shrunken testicles, cancer, go right ahead. Steroids or no steroids, though, Barry Bonds is still the best to ever play baseball. Next, Catholic Charities ends their adoption programs to avoid gay parents. Can you say hypocrite? We all know that they're gay priests, even if they're not practicing. But gay couples can't adopt? Closeted gay priests can perform sermons, communion, listen to confessions, and even perform christenings, but gay couples can't give a home to a child in desperate need? What would Jesus do? Next, country stars criticize President Bush over the handling of Katrina. Say what? Take a listen.
It's just humiliating as a country, but there is some unforgettable and unforgivable events that took place that could have changed the course of what happened after that hurricane.
If we can't handle it, turn it over to a private organization and let them handle it.
Yeah, and I usually cringe when entertainers start talking about politics, but Katrina hit home for many of us. And if Tim McGraw and Faith Hill want to speak out, I say that's fine with me. That's their right as Americans.
Navigate to cnn.com/Karen Hunter to upload your own reality check rant. Give us your opinions on our stories of the day in 30 seconds or less, audio or video, and we'll air the best ones tomorrow.